few times a year, Valve runs the Steam Next Fest, a week-long digital event featuring demos of yet-to-be-released games from both big teams and small. Given that E3 seems to be more or less dead at this point, and Summer Game Fest being, what it is, these events are definitely some of the best chances you'll have to check out upcoming games. So for the October 2023 Steam Next Fest, I decided to put together a video showcasing a selection of games that I personally enjoyed, with an emphasis on games that I think you're less likely to have played or perhaps even heard about. So get your pen and paper and your Steam Add to Wishlist finger ready, and let's play some demos. Just for fun, I've placed each game into one of these 3 vibes-based categories. The categories are cute, strange, and cool. I feel these categories are mostly self-explanatory, but I'll elaborate further as we move on with the video. The cute games in this season's Next Fest can be summed up pretty succinctly. Little guys. Yeah, they're just little guys. We're going little guy mode this season, and we're starting out familiar with a little guy we all know and love. That's right, folks, it's Mouse Cursor. If you were a bored kid of a certain age, you probably know the roller coaster of emotion that was glitching out your family's crusty Windows 98 PC. A little scary at first, but then it gets kinda fun, swinging windows around as they repeat infinitely, making your own game with just your mouse. This is Cursorblade, a cute, cuddly little roguelite about swinging this little guy all over the place. It's pretty simple. Pick a little guy and just move your mouse all over the screen, and watch as all the enemies blow up. Be careful though, as tempting as it is to go absolutely wild, you can't swing with complete reckless abandon for long, because these blobs will fight you back. Slimes will bite you, goblins will throw their rocks at you, mages will electrocute you. It can be full-on bullet heck at times. Fortunately though, between each round, you'll get weapons and power-ups to help you out. I really like the cactus, which gives you some prickly green orbiters around your cursor, or the porcupine, which makes enemies explode into spikes upon defeat. Pretty chill little game here, and the music is nice too. Alright, moving your mouse around is fun and all, but let's say you like your little guys with a bit more depth. This is Cobalt Core, and at a glance it looks a bit like a mashup of Slay the Spire and Faster Than Light. In fact, I nearly didn't try this one because I always found FTL to be a little too brutal, and I'm a little worn out by all the deck builders lately in general. But don't make my mistake, this game owns. In Cobalt Core, you'll command a ship inhabited by 3 cute little Animalian crew members through card-based combat encounters. The basics are familiar enough. Each turn, you have 3 energy with which to spend on your choice of a randomly pulled hand of cards. What makes the game unique though is the fact that each portion of the ship acts as a separate lane. What this means is, in addition to the usual shield or block mechanic, you can actually just completely dodge out of the way of enemy fire. It's not just dodging though, as some enemy ships take extra damage if you can hit them in weak spots. Environmental effects shake up the positioning too, like this asteroid belt that can be used by you or your opponent for cover. You can even modify your ship to include parts that can't be damaged by enemies. I love how your squad of critters will comment on your plays and banter amongst themselves and your opponent. It makes things feel a little more lively. I would die for Dizzy. All of this combined with the usual deck builder fare like card upgrades, passive effects, etc. A simple and clean aesthetic, and a chill, synthy, pop-rocky soundtrack makes for a great time. Definitely one of the best I played for this video. If turn-based combat isn't really your thing, and you're looking for something a little more high energy, why not try Rabbit and Steel? A hyper-distilled, max-level MMO rating simulation featuring one of the best little guys of all time, Girl. Bunny Girl, to be precise. And if you've played Final Fantasy XIV past the several hundred-hour mark, you'll recognize a whole lot in this game. Rabbit and Steel takes you and up to 3 additional friends, online, locally, or a mix of the two, straight past all that boring reading in Final Fantasy XIV, and straight to the pulse-pounding, mic-screaming, bullet-hacking that is endgame raid combat. Pick from 5 different classes, each with their own 4 unique abilities, and progress roguelite style from boss to boss. with loot and shops to power you up along the way. I love the idea of taking gameplay that's typically only seen in MMOs and fitting it into an entirely different presentation. Try Mini Healer if you want to get that raid healing fix while you watch your stories on the second monitor. And Rabbit and Steel marries Final Fantasy raiding and roguelike structure beautifully. I had a great time playing this alone, but if you really want to test your relationships, I definitely recommend some co-op. You'll be yelling at each other to stack up or to memorize the freaking patterns in no time, just like the real thing. Cute is simple enough, but let's get a little more complex with it. Games in the strange category will be games that don't follow your average game design rules, or feature an unusual art style, or maybe they're spooky or creepy or oopy doopy. Strange isn't bad, it's just a vibe, and these games have it. Mosa Lina calls itself a hostile interpretation of the immersive sim, and I think that's a pretty great way to describe it. Each run of Mosa Lina consists of a series of 9 randomly generated stages and one final stage, wherein you're tasked with either acquiring or disposing of 1 or 2 fruits placed within each stage. The catch is, before these levels are generated, a list of powers that will be available to you is also chosen at random. This probably sounds counterintuitive, and if you're thinking, wouldn't some of these challenges be impossible without the right items? Then yes, as the tooltip block says in the menu level, sometimes you can't win. As it also says, raw randomness can feel horrible. But here's the key thing, raw randomness can feel amazing. Dying is frequent in this game, but importantly, dying is also very funny in this game. No! When you do die, you just get sent to the next level in rotation, no big deal. Maybe next time you'll get a better item. Maybe not. Trying new and sometimes ridiculous strategies is just so fun in this game, and it had me regularly screaming and cackling by myself while I played it. It just feels so great to pull off something that feels absurd or impossible, and I think that's what gives it that immersive sim flavor. There's also mention here of a pass and play mode in the menu, and I think that's a pretty genius addition to the game. With the right group of friends, I think this could be a super fun challenge to tackle and shoot the shit with. Highly recommend this one. From the absolutely meticulous black and white pixel artwork, reminiscent of early Macintosh games, to the honestly bold amount of text commentary from the protagonist, presented about nearly everything visible on screen, My Work Is Not Yet Done truly thrives in its details. This is true of nearly every aspect of the game, from its menus that again harken back to old Mac Windows and bright blue BIOS, to the presentation of tools and objects on screen in vivid, sometimes laborious detail. Our protagonist, Avery, is part of a mysterious investigation team tasked with surveying a thickly wooded area in search of a mysterious transmission. Her teammate, R, has gone missing, and the game opens with us checking various equipment for signs of her whereabouts. Whereas many games would try to simplify using these tools to a single button press, My Work Is Not Yet Done instead asks you to really engage with and understand them more thoroughly. This expectation of patience extends to just about every element of the game. Your character moves quite slowly and there's no way to run. You're able to explore a surprisingly large amount of these woods, and this often boils down to moving slowly from screen to screen, occasionally running your mouse around any suspicious-looking objects. There's a sequence later inside her makeshift base of operations where, upon showering before bed, I thought the game might have frozen, but it just really does expect you to wait a full, whole-ass minute for her to shower. I think these elements may initially turn some players off, as they admittedly did for myself, but I think that there's a good argument to be made that they really do add to the vibe and complement the narrative. It's hard not to be reminded of the book/movie Annihilation, with its similarity and basic premise of a team of female scientists investigating a strange occurrence as they slowly succumb to its influence and splinter apart. I personally find a lot of value in this style of horror narrative, and though my work is not yet done definitely does ask a lot of you, I believe it'll be worth the effort when the full game comes out. As we transition from the strange category to the cool category, I think it only makes sense to discuss Peripeteia next, a game that fits neatly between both categories. Cut from the same immersive sim cloth as the classic cool kid game Deus Ex, Peripeteia feels like it's meant to be played on one monitor while The Matrix plays on your second one. I think cowards might call this game ugly, but I don't think I can really properly express the sheer visual delight I feel navigating its garish, low-res, early 2000s-ass menus, or the ludicrously enormous and sparse levels, bathed in sickly greens and blues. It's the kind of game where looking for 1 second at the game's extremely aesthetic trailer will tell you if it's for you or not. I love the design of our player character too, the android Marie, who looks like the late-night creation of a depressed teen who plays Deus Ex on one monitor while Ghost in the Shell plays on the second one. Marie wakes up in a nearly abandoned building with nothing but a cassette player, a tape, and a cryptic note to guide her. Upon leaving the room, Philemon, the junker who wrote said note, is surprised to see her awake and talking, having assumed she was just scrap. Naturally, he recruits you into a fetch quest for a special bulb, giving you the chance to choose some basic starting equipment, similar to the opening scene with Paul Denton and Deus Ex. I chose an interface possessor and a Makarov pistol, though I would actually complete the demo without using either one. Philemon tells you to head up to the roof via the room behind him, and that's all the direction you'll be given. Of course, Peripeteia being an immersive sim, you can actually go about this objective any way you choose. There's plenty of interactivity too. You can talk to most NPCs, loot items from lockers and drawers, hack computers, even watch TV.
Where will it be today?
The game is hands-off to the point that I think some players will find it off-putting, however. As mentioned before, the levels are absolutely comically enormous, and it's extremely easy to get lost in its seemingly endless hallways and stairwells. In this process of trying to find Philemon's bulb, I'd regularly wonder if I was traversing the rooftops as the game intended, or if I was just breaking out of bounds. Everything is just a little unusual, like climbing a ladder in Peripeteia is done by just jumping repeatedly on it, rather than clinging to it and moving upwards like you'd expect from most other games. It is strange, but exploring these cavernous environments while listening to the surprisingly great soundtrack via found tapes on the aforementioned cassette player, it just hits a certain special way. I did find my way eventually though, and as mentioned, I never actually ended up using a single weapon or power-up, because I was actually able to just talk my way through every encounter, selling out Philemon in the process. Oops. The final portion of the demo takes you back to your apartment, a cozy space lit occasionally, dramatically, by a train passing by the window as the sounds of heavy rain just barely drown out your radio. Just outside, you'll converse with the hallway weirdo, a cute conversation that develops a bit of Marie's personality. I'm actually not completely sure if this is where the demo ends, but I couldn't find anything else to progress here. There's a firing range in the basement where I decided to finally get a feel for some of the shooting mechanics, and it feels better than I anticipated. You have to load ammo in a pretty detailed and laborious way too, so I get the feeling that taking a combat route might be on the challenging side. Peripeteia was definitely one of the highlights for me in this next fest. And if you're able to take a just try stuff approach to playing games, it's well worth pushing past some of the obtuse systems. Listen, you know cool when you see it. Whether it's gameplay mechanics that make you feel cool while pulling them off, or an aesthetic that you see and think, damn, that's pretty cool. Here's some demos meant to be played sitting on your chair backwards with a leather jacket and sunglasses on. There's little doubt in my mind that in the year 2000, an edgy teenager somewhere was playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 with their friends, when one of them said, "Yeah, this game is cool, but wouldn't it be much cooler if you had guns?" Well, here to validate that kid is Motordoom, a game that feels torn from outside the margins of a high school notebook amongst scribbles of upside-down crosses, skulls, and pentagrams. Motordoom is not shy about its Tony Hawk's Pro Skater influence. If you've played those games, you'll feel right at home here, as the controls are nearly identical, despite the swapping of skateboards for motorcycles. Triangle on a rail or edge starts a grind that you have to balance left and right on. Pressing a direction plus circle or square while in the air will perform different tricks. You can even link together combos by pressing up and then down to manual while on the ground, helping you rack up big points for your score. Obviously, the big difference here is that you'll be fighting hell monsters at the same time, and killing monsters only counts towards your score if you do it while in the air, while grinding a rail, or during a manual. Motordoom is structured a bit like Vampire Survivors, where increasing hordes of enemies have to be mowed down as you try to survive to the time limit. Enemies drop little blue orbs to fill your XP bar, and leveling up gives you a selection of new weapons and effects to increase your chances of survival. The demo features two characters, Motor Dude, a more balanced regular guy on a chainsaw bike, and my personal pick, the Boner Brothers. These sweet little skeletons are a good pick if you need time to come to grips with the controls, as one of the brothers will shoot for you in between chugs of beer, so you can focus on stringing tricks together and not worry about aiming. Admittedly, the demo feels a little rough around the edges still, but once I got the hang of it, I ended up having a ton of fun and felt really cool pulling off tricks and blasting through hordes of baddies to a thematically appropriate "We Have Motorhead at Home" soundtrack. The bones of a great game are here, so I'm looking forward to the full release. How could we talk about being cool and not mention everyone's #1 favorite cool guy in all of gaming? Sonic the Hedgehog.
Hey!
The style, the attitude,
Alright,
but most importantly, the speed.
it's running time!
Say what you will about Sonic's games, but the one thing you can't deny is that rolling up into a little ball and blasting away just feels amazing. Go Mecha Ball takes the little guy becomes speedy ball concept and mashes it up beautifully with a positively punchy top-down shooter to create something pretty special. While fighting through its enemy wave-based arenas, you can hold down the right mouse button to enter said speedy ball state, allowing you to take advantage of boosters placed throughout the stage, smashing through objects and enemies alike. This is a roguelite, so we've also got unlockables in the form of on-cooldown abilities, new guns, passive upgrades, all the usual trappings are here. Go Mecha Ball absolutely shines in its movement and game feel though. The feeling of rocketing up the side of a building, leaving ball form for a second or two mid-air to fire some shots off, then rolling away again upon touching the ground is intoxicating. As fun as the rolling around is, the guns are wonderfully designed too, with animations that satisfyingly convey just how heavy they are for your little mech-clad feline to fire. I seriously struggled to stop playing this demo and to move on to the next one, and if you're into high adrenaline, fast-paced action games with unique movement, I can't recommend it enough. I've been truly hooked on boomer shooters lately. Between newer releases like Cultic, Turbo Overkill, and Slayer's X, new expansions like Ion Fury's Aftershock or Amid Evil's The Black Labyrinth, or older games made new again, like with the excellent Quake 2 remaster and Call of the Machine expansion. 2023 is an amazing year to play FPS games made by and for old people mentally trapped in the 90s. Even amongst those titles, the demo for The Last Exterminator makes an impression. The premise is simple enough. You play as Kira, an exterminator in the right place at the right time, when a group of bug-like aliens invade and try to take over the city. Though there are some bits of various 90s shooters here and there, The Last Exterminator to me feels much more specific in its lineage. From the verbose main character spouting one-liners,
"Those alien bastards are gonna pay for blowing up my van,"
to the relatively small and grounded, but densely packed levels full of secrets and interactable objects. There's a clear Duke 3D Ion Fury build engine-y vibe to this one. In the demo's singular level, you'll be fighting through the city streets and buildings, looking for keycards to progress from one area to the next. A tried and true formula, but the level design here is great. I love playing a shooter like this that just confidently forgoes an in-game map. You don't even need it. Navigating its spaces feels natural. with plenty of unique geometry and landmarks to guide you from key to key. Most importantly, Last Exterminator feels incredibly smooth and fun to play. The movement feels snappy with just the right amount of speed, and the guns feel punchy and distinct from each other. The game looks and sounds just about perfect too. Whereas some modern retro-themed FPS can get a bit muddled with inconsistent commitment to the retro aesthetic, Last Exterminator goes all the way, with menus, texture work, geometry, sound, and music that all feel cohesively retro. It makes set-piece moments, like this building falling into another building, feel super impressive because it seems more technically advanced than what you're expecting from it. If The Last Exterminator can keep all of this up throughout an entire game, I think we'll easily have one of the best retro-style shooters in years.
I came, I saw, I kicked its ass.
Well, there you have it. 9 demos across a variety of genres and styles, all of which are pretty promising in their own ways. Hopefully this video proved helpful to you. Again, my goal here was to share with you some of the demos that I personally enjoyed in hopes that you might find something interesting or cool looking enough to add to your wishlist or try the demo for yourself if it's still available. I had originally wanted to cover quite a few more demos. Those are some of the clips that you see throughout the video, and I've put the name of the game up on the top right corner so that if you do see something cool, you can go ahead and take note of that and look into it. Anyway, I'm currently working on 2 other very different videos, but I wanted to sort of push myself to see if I could finish this during the week of the next fest. And technically, I've done that. There's like about 2 hours until midnight where I am, so I guess I did it. If there's any big things that I missed from the next fest, if there's any cool demos that you know of, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for interesting new things to check out. I guess that's it then. Thanks for watching. Bye!